Love that. Welcome to CMO Huddle Studio, the live streaming show dedicated to inspiring B2B flocking awesomeness. I'm your host, Drew Neiser, live from my home studio in New York City. Well, it's that time of year again. Nope, not the holidays. It's budgeting season. And once again, CMOs are caught between the dueling mandates: drive growth and cut costs. Throw in the shiny but unproven promises of AI, the tug of war between zero-based budgeting and last year's spend with results, and you've got a perfect storm of pressure and possibility. So how do you build a budget with conviction when the goalposts just won't sit still? With that, let's bring on Alan Gonsenhauser, who has been so patiently waiting. He's the founder and CEO of Demand Revenue, who has previously joined the show to shed light on the intricacies of fractional CMOing and customer-led growth. Hello, Alan. Welcome back.
Hey, Drew. Great to be back. Great
and
to see you again.
Now you've heard both Andrew with the Forrester point of view and Lisa. What is your, what'd you hear that resonated, and where do you want to start when it comes to this really budgeting with conviction challenge?
Well, first of all, I don't think there's going to be a lot of disagreement here. I think they both gave, Andrew and Lisa gave great points. And I think some of this will be reinforcing, maybe a little new. So maybe I'll tell you, three things where I believe budgeting has been done well, and three things where it's been done poorly.
Okay, so let's start with it well.
Where it's been done well, marketing budget needs to be aligned to corporate priorities, not only the annual priorities, but the 3-year strategic plan. So the investments you're making this year is going to get you closer to where you want to be 3 years from now. And what I tell folks is to pick three things you need to do well that'll move the bar, and, define very clearly what marketing will and won't do. Strategy and leadership is not just deciding what are the few things you're going to do, but deciding on the things that you're not going to do, and make sure you're aligned at the C-suite level. The second thing is to budget, and Andrew mentioned this, by major growth campaigns that drive revenue. And the way I like to think of that is putting 80 to 85% of your budget into revenue generating campaigns that will drive brand awareness, demand, customer engagement, sales, and customer success productivity. And keep maybe 15 to 20% as discretionary, because things always change. And the third area, and this was mentioned, is really strong and ongoing alignment between the CMO and the CFO. That's really important. And, also the other C-suite members. But, marketing shouldn't be in a vacuum. Marketing is, CMO should be a general manager that's very tied to the other functions. So I think those are three things that define budgeting done well.
Okay, let's stay there for a second, because I have questions for you on that. Because it's really important. So one of the things that you talked about that I don't think happens as often as it should is the 3-year planning cycle. And what I love about that is that marketing does have a long-term impact. Certain aspects of marketing take longer than others, right? I mean, obviously, if you're...
And other functions as well, to get to where you want to be 3 years from now.
Right. I mean, we may have to change perceptions. We may want to improve product to increase loyalty. Yeah. And there's a lot that can happen. But I don't necessarily hear a lot of CMOs or an appetite even for CMOs to be talking about 3-year plans. So, because everything's about this quarter or this year, and even at PE firms, which you know very well, I mean, that year, the third year is the year that you're going to be flipping. So it's all about EBITDA and it's not about growth. So now what? So how do you make sure that the 3-year plan is taken seriously in the C-suite?
It's got to be taken seriously in the C-suite, and that's got to start with the CEO. And in terms of PE holding periods, generally it's 5 to 7 years. So the first year the first couple of years, you're fixing a lot of problems. Maybe you're changing management. The middle of that, you're building infrastructure, people, process, technology, data, analytics, brand equity, and pricing. And then the third period is the one you mentioned, where you're trying to dress it up and sell to either another PE firm or to a strategic, or go through an IPO. But I think, we're working on this year's plan, but this year's plan has to ladder the company up, not only marketing, but the other functions too, to where the company wants to be 3 years from now. So there needs to be a value creation plan and image on where this company is going. And it's a good idea for the entire C-suite to think about, okay, this is what we want to get done this year, but where is that going to bring us closer to where we want to be 3 years from now? Does that make sense?
It does. Okay, I have more questions on this first part of it, which I hear from, this came up in a conversation yesterday in one of our huddles. A CMO said, my CFO just leaves the room when I mention brand and PR. But yet they want to know, and this gets back to what Lisa was talking about, if we could get rid of not talking about the how, right? We could just say, here's where we want to get to. I got the details and the sausage. I'll get us there and I'll make that commitment with you. But if they don't understand PR and they don't understand how marketing works or why you need to spend a certain amount of money in a certain way, you can get resistance on the how.
Yeah.
And so I wonder, in terms of budgeting with conviction, you talked about campaigns, and obviously campaigns are lots of stuff. How do you sort of push back and say, don't worry about how PR works, and get them to just say, I'm committing to agree, this is the investment, here's the output, the return we should expect, and not get them thinking about brand or demand or, trying to, right? Because frankly, it's a stupid exercise, but it seems to come up more often than any CMO would ever want it to.
Way too much short-term thinking. Way too much thinking on the next couple of quarters. And I have these conversations with CEOs, CFOs, private equity all the time. And, the way I coach and mentor CMOs to talk about this in terms of brand reputation investments, which is, I think, where you're, heading, is translate the benefits of brand equity into financial terms. It's going to be our pipeline a year from now. We're still going to need pipeline a year from now. We're going to have more at-bats. We're going to have better win-loss ratios. We're going to have more pricing power. All of those things are financial. And in fact, brand is actually an asset on the balance sheet, brand equity. So I think there are ways of positioning brand reputation investments in ways that CFOs and boards understand better by translating that into financial metrics. And you can have some short-term indicators on brand, to look at things in the short term, like awareness, perception, and preference. But you need to be able to communicate the benefits of brand reputation in a way CFOs and boards understand. So
I hear you. It's so funny. I'm also getting in this mind. I'm in this moment where I'm hearing, yeah. What's the pipeline?
Well, plus, if you look at the research I just saw at the Sixth Sense conference, Kerry Cunningham came out with research that says, hey, look, 80% of the time, companies at the beginning of their buying process, they've got 4 to 5 vendors in mind. 75% or more, actually, I think it was 75% of the time, they're going to go with the first one that they reach out to.
Right.
So if you're not on the original list of companies they're going to be considering, doesn't matter what you do with demand, you've already lost. So the 95% of people that are not in market right now, you need to give them content that will make them aware and drive some brand preference. So when they do get in market, you'll be on that short list and you'll be considered. Otherwise, you're just not going to be, considered.
Right. So marketing spend equals short list. And we're not on enough of them, so there it is. And I get that certainly helps explain. Again, we're not in the how land; we are in the output and the what.
Right.
We're almost out of time for you right now, but you were going to share. Maybe you could quickly share the bad budgeting.
Okay. Well, marketing one is a function and trying to do too many things, being reactive. Random acts of marketing versus being proactive and thinking, picking the 3 things that are going to move the bar. budgeting by function, and each function trying to spend within marketing their money by the end of the year, which is really, not a cool thing, and poor CMO-CFO alignment. Just, trying to develop something with the CFO at budget time versus all year.
It was a small group, but it was this concept that we're taking on the road of strategy labs, and I was so glad you could be there. And thank you for sharing your template, which was amazing. Okay, Alan, Andrew,
it's always great to see things that work. To Lisa's point, I also would say the super huddle I just went to a few weeks ago in Palo Alto was tremendous. Met a lot of great people. I met a lot of people that I've known virtually, but never met face to face, and that was really awesome. And you had a lot of great presentations on AI, culture, emerging technology. I thought it was a great event.
Thank you. We launched in beta for all the members of the Leader program this multidimensional reputation tracker using a bunch of APIs out there on various levels. And we've got the first 3 months of data for most of the members of the program. And it's fascinating to see the movements and what's causing them. So anyway, if you're a B2B marketing leader who wants to build a strong peer network, gain recognition as a thought leader, maybe get access to RepuTracker and get your very own Stress Penguin, please join us at CMOhuddles.com. Okay, that was a lot, and I appreciate all three of you for those great comments. We've managed to spend 35 minutes together and not talk about AI. That's maybe a record. And I've mentioned this on shows and in huddles, there is a Silicon Valley driven notion that everybody, not just marketing, but everybody should be able to do everything they were doing 30 to 50% more efficient thanks to AI. So marketing, you lead the way. Show us how you're going to do more with less thanks to AI. And I'm just, because this has to do with budgeting, right?
Yeah.
And I'm just curious, and this came up in the Super Huddle, and one of the CMOs says, I think we are going to be able to do 20, 30% more next year. So we'll keep the same headcount, but we'll be able to deliver more. I'm curious how you're seeing things. And Alan, since you went last time, maybe you want to share. Do you think it's realistic for CMOs to say, yeah, we'll deliver 20% more with the same people thanks to AI next year?
It can be in some areas like content and some other areas, following up faster. I think a lot of it is benefiting business development, BDRs, with faster responsiveness, as we heard at the Super Huddle. But in terms of preparing, organizations and teams, there are a few things. I think companies need to invest in training resources. They need to create a culture of safeness and ability to, for their people to fail and learn, because no one has it perfect. I guess 90% of companies are using AI, but only, I think one stat I heard at your Super Huddle, only 1% think they have it locked. They need patience and change management processes to progress well, and pick just a few tools. Don't try to do everything, and learn those tools really well.
If there's a couple of things I want to go back to with all of you. I don't think anyone here is saying we're not going to use these tools. Oh, no. We are going to know. We're going to use them, and we're going to embrace them. One thing we don't know is AI generated content or assisted content going to be as effective as the stuff that we used to do? We don't know that. It's going to be faster. We don't know if it's going to be better or more effective. That's part one of this thing. Again, we're all embracing it. I know this is a group of leaning in, but here's the thing that I wonder. You don't want to do this, but if you tore down your department and built it again, AI first, what would it look radically different? And should CMOs be thinking about that? As painful as that sounds, and easy for me to say, but is that, because you mentioned it, Andrew, you noted that if you're starting from scratch, you'd be AI first. It's amazing what you could do as one person. I do think also, Alan, your points about training is so critical in this thing, because there's this, hey, this is amazing stuff. Go learn it and do it. And yet, because not everybody embraces the tools in the same way, not everybody plays with them on the weekends like some of us do. I mean, man, am I having fun with Gemini 3 and just playing? I mean, it's so cool and it's fun, but I'm a curious person and represent a lot, so that time is well spent. But not every employee is doing that. So the training thing is quite real. But I do think CMOs are, whether or not you think they can do it, I think they're being asked some efficiency improvement.
Yeah,
right.
Certainly.
And so where is that going to come from, and how is that going to show up in 2026 budgets?
One analogy I heard recently that I thought was really good is there are a lot of AI crumbs. You've fixed this process, you've optimized this process, you've sped it up, you have a process over here, you have a process over here, but you want to take the crumbs and build a cake. You want to have some, overall leadership and strategy around how you're going to use AI in the organization, whether it's marketing or finance or other functions, and how these use cases, as you learn different things, are going to fit together and help you in your overall goals. One example is a lot of the work that Lisa's doing on org design. I've done org design with over 100 CMOs and marketing organizations. But the newer thing now is having AI bots below each of the people on your org chart to help them be more productive. So how are these all going to fit together? And I think that's kind of one of the next challenges that companies are going to be facing, to try to make sense of all this. But you also have to make sure you know what AI is good for and what it's not good for. It's not good for divergent breakthrough thinking, and you can't use it for that.
It's just a fascinating moment in that we're all facing. And we also know that if you really want to do what Lisa said, which is get at those workflows and create the things, you're going to need a new person on your team, an AI ops person who actually understands the technology, when to use AI, how to do it safely, how to connect some dots, how to bridge these things. So maybe you save some money in your content team and you can hire this ops person, but we're net even on staffing costs. So I guess I want to budget with conviction in 2026. You need to know, is there going to be a place where a CMO can say with a straight face to their CFO, yeah, we're going to be more efficient, and that's going to show up here?
Huge impact of responsiveness. Everybody knows that, of getting rid of the Frankenstacks that are out there and all the stuff that isn't used, and with too much. I mean, all of those 5 areas are great, I think.
No,
I work into the budget process.
I love it. It really does help. And so I think if we go back to where we started with this conversation, and we talked about, you've got to start with, what do you want to achieve? You've got to get alignment with the executives on, we agree on what we're going to achieve, and we agree on the role that marketing will play to achieve it. Leave how we do it to us. And by the way, we're going to be very flexible, because now we can even be more flexible. And that's some point that, and then, what we didn't really talk much about is measurement relative to budget, but I think you did, in the sense, in the very setup, we commit to a certain business value that we're going to deliver. And in that is some measurement of it. So I feel like we've covered a lot of ground, but I'd love to have some final words of wisdom for CMOs who want to budget with conviction in 2026. Okay, Alan.
Less is more. Pick top 3 things that are going to make a difference and move the bar and move your business forward. Maintain a very strong relationship with your CFO year round. Meet with them at least once a month, if not once a week, and tie your budget to corporate priorities and generate, revenue generating campaigns. And budget 80% of your money there into investments that will really drive the business forward with these strategies that the company has, and be very well aligned cross-functionally.
I love it. I know one CMO who actually did know a lot about finance, but every time they had a new CFO, they would just go into him and say, teach me about finance, teach me about what matters to you, teach me about that. And then was a sponge. And then along the way, that CFO said, well, you know what, teach me about marketing. And then it became an interesting process. So a little humility and curiosity in that relationship building goes a long way. Probably living in the most uncertain time that any of us professionals have dealt with. So build in that flexibility. Lisa talked about a 20% number. And then when you add in the 10 to 15% for experimentation, you really have about 35% of your budget that is available. Love that as a final word of wisdom. So thank you, Andrew, Lisa, Alan. You're all amazing sports. Thank you, audience, for staying with us.